Warning: the message you are about to hear are the views of the Oklahoma Tomcat and are not supported by the government. Agreeing with this message could cause you to be targeted by the government agencies, and liberal advocates. You have been warned.
Greetings in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This is the Oklahoma Tomcat coming to you from Bearden, Oklahoma. Boy, I am sore. Been doing a lot of woodwork, splitting and cutting the last couple of weeks. Haven't really been giving my body much time to rest. I know there are people who do this all the time, cutting down trees and splitting wood. But keep in mind, I'm not a lumberjack. I'm a 45-year-old truck driver. But I'm not complaining. I've been very, very blessed. We got kind of a late start with wood this year. Normally we get our wood from a neighbor of ours. But our neighbor hasn't been able to get us wood this year. I'm not criticizing him. He's got a lot of health issues. He really shouldn't be doing that much work. He does quite a bit of stuff. And really, I should be better prepared. I knew this, that there would be a day when he wouldn't be able to get us wood. And I do have the equipment to cut down trees and split wood. I just had to give my, space, better manage my time, I think is what I'm trying to say. And just knuckle down and do it. But we're very blessed. Once I made the announcement that I'm looking for firewood, people just out of woodwork has been telling me they got down trees and stuff like that. And I've been cutting up that, which is perfect. I mean, the wood is seasoned. It's been down. It needs to just cut up and split, and it's ready for use. So, I mean, I'm so blessed to have so many friends and family to help out. We've got enough wood to last us a few weeks, and we're staying warm. I was out in my woods cutting up trees, and I guess I cut through poison ivy because both arms are just loaded with poison ivy. And normally I don't react so much to poison ivy, but this time it is spreading and itchy. But things have been going good here. We had a great Thanksgiving, and staying busy, and now trying to get prepared for Christmas, not too far away. But there's been quite a bit of news about police shootings and riots and things like that. And 2 states have been affected by, excuse me, I'm going to just say, hey, more one state than other. And I'm going to get into both situations, my views on them. But The biggest issue I have is why these made national news. Police shootings are not new. They've been happening forever. Okay, ever since there was police. And innocent people being shot by police is also not new. There's no doubt there are bad police officers out there. Okay, I'm not defending uh, the fact that all police are good. I've studied a lot on human nature. I feel I have a pretty good idea of what human nature is. And it's not pretty. Every field of work out there has hateful people in it. Doctors, nurses, teachers, lawyers, of course, um, truck drivers. Um, everywhere's you look, you're going to see hate. It's just a sad truth about human nature. Okay. I kind of find it funny that you got people who target police officers, but they don't target teachers. Don't we have teachers that are abusing children? There's not one person out there that can honestly say that all teachers are good. And to me, that is kind of that's really a. I mean, you can make the argument that police officers are different in the fact that they're supposed to defend law and that they have a lot of power out there to uh, exert their force onto innocent people. But teachers have a very delicate job. They are teaching children, the most innocent of all innocents out there, and the ones where the minds are being molded. Teachers are also got a lot of power. So I mean, let's really take an honest look at all fields out there, all jobs out there. You got bad truck drivers. That's 80,000 pounds of weight going down the road. You got bad doctors out there. Now, come on. let's really take a look at something here. Doctors have a lot of power. I mean, when we go into doctors, most people go in there open-minded to anything a doctor says. Bad dentists out there. I've heard of a few here in Oklahoma. So, let's be honest. Okay? There are bad people out there. And bad police officers aren't anything new, just like bad any type of a person is not new. Abuse of power is something that happens a lot. So now the question comes why all of a sudden things like this is making national news. We got two incidences that made national news on a topic that is not a new topic. And suddenly it just goes like wildfire. I think it's because there are some people that are inciting hate and want to cause chaos here in America. People who want power. And the best way to get power is to incite an anarchy, really. And these are the same people that have done the Wall Street thing. the one percenter thing, hate towards the 1%. The same people who tried to do this with the shooting down there in Florida with Trayvon Martin. The same people who tried to do it with the Duke lacrosse team. Now it seems to have taken a little bit more traction than before. And the thing is, both these cases, neither one of them is about race. Not initially, not with the police officer. It became about race when these people, this handful of people, decided to use race to incite riots. Now, the issue with Ferguson. This here, to anyone who has eyes to see, will see that this here was totally made up thing. I mean, the shooting really did happen. Unfortunately, the boy did die. But was this boy innocent? And the answer to that is no. He wasn't innocent at all. He was not the gentle giant that people were trying to make him out to be. And that is what the jury saw, and that's why the officer was never indicted. Now, it's one thing to start to protest. Protesting is legal. It's a tool that our founding fathers wanted to keep open for the American people when they are disgruntled about government. And I have nothing wrong with protesting, even if I disagree why you're protesting. Protesting should be done in a civil, obedient way. And we've seen good protests out there. Martin Luther King was a great man. And he was all about nonviolence. We've seen protests on government in the past that were very civil, very obedient. What happened in Ferguson was totally wrong. And those of you that done it and supported it, you hurt yourself by doing that. Because people look at that and they say, look at these people. They are about lawlessness. No wonder why they defending Brown. No wonder why they're defending the government. Because the people who's organizing these protests is about liberals. They're liberals. They support government being lawless. And now look, lawlessness. And can anyone explain to me how burning down your neighbor's property is protesting the government? You think government's going to be hurting because your neighbor's property got burned? No. They're not even going to lose any money. Government gets this money from us. I've heard people say, well, the insurance companies will pay for it. Let me tell you something. Lots of people in Ferguson are poor. They don't have great insurance. I just read a beauty shop up there that burnt down. Their insurance is only paying for a quarter of the damage. And that beauty shop is family owned. That is their life. That's how they earn money. Any of you that burnt down those places, are you going to go back and fix it? Are you going to pay for it getting fixed? Are you going to buy the material? Are you going to support that family while they have no income? Think about it. Think of the hate that you demonstrate by burning down other people's property. People who had nothing to do with Michael Brown. You have taken away their source of income. Wiped it away. That's the abuse of power the power you abused. Is you took away a family's source of income. Let that sink in. Think about it. You have hate in you. And you showed it. And why? Why'd you do it? What justification do you have in burning down your neighbor's property? And when I say neighbor, I'm not talking about the fact that you live in Ferguson, because I know majority of those protesters and rioters live outside of Ferguson. But by neighbor, I'm talking about a fellow human. Human that you claim you love and you care about. And this beauty shop got robbed 3 times. They call it looting. I call it robbery. Before it got burned down in previous protests. How about the bake shop that was in Ferguson, owned by a woman that loved to bake? And she was convinced by others to start up this bake shop. A relatively new bake shop, too. Everything destroyed. She was on the news crying. It's now clear to me, well, it's always been clear to me, but now it's been justified, that liberals cannot claim that they are more loving and caring than anyone else. They cannot claim that they are looking out for the poor people, because they've been exposed. Now, I want to switch over to another case in New York with Eric Garner, who was killed. Now, this one here had a video that was being shot, which kind of destroys the whole theory that, you know, police officers wearing body cameras will help, because there was a video that was actually shot of the incident happening, of a police officer. Some claim did a chokehold, some say it wasn't actually a chokehold. Open for debate. Now, this case here is just just blows my mind, because I have to say that I do understand totally the uproar in the whole incident, because the guy was selling loose cigarettes outside of a store. Apparently, the store owner called the police, and which is all understandable. I would do the same thing. I don't want people selling things outside of my place of business without me saying yes to them. that they can do it. It makes your business look bad. People don't like. I know I hate it. You know, you're getting from your car and you're going into a business, and then all of a sudden this guy from you don't know who is trying to sell you stuff. Number one, you don't know if stuff is stolen or not. You definitely don't want to get caught with stolen property. But also, you don't know if the stuff is good or not. You know, and I don't like salesmen. Come on, I do not like salesmen. They're pushy. You feel you. It's just a bad thing. So I understand the store owner. I would have done the same exact thing. Now, the police approached this guy. Apparently, there was some type of argument. There was a video on it, and I have to be honest, I didn't actually see the video. Uh, but the guy selling the loose cigarettes, starts arguing with the police officer and all that. Police officer calls back up. They try to arrest the guy. The guy appears to have resisted arrest. The police officer puts the guy in a chokehold. And eventually the guy dies. I'm giving a very quick recap on it. Most people have already heard the story or have seen it. And if you haven't, go ahead and check it out. But here's the thing. Did the police officer use excessive force in trying to arrest a guy? I say no. All right. I say yes. I'm sorry. I say yes. He did. He. If someone's crying that they can't breathe, you should let up. You really should. I think the whole thing could have been totally avoided by both parties. And I understand the people getting angry because the guy died, even though he had bad health. I'm going to point that out. All right. But still, if someone says they can't breathe, you should let up on them. Okay. And especially if you have backup, there's more than one way to take down a guy, especially if he is in bad health. The grand jury came out saying that the police officer shouldn't have been, that the police officer is not to be indicted. Now, something to understand about the grand jury and indicting them. Indicting the person does not mean they're guilty. I'm saying this for a reason, because I'm about to say something that some people may disagree with me on. You're not saying that the person is guilty. All you're saying is there's enough evidence to press charges and bring them to an actual court. The officer, I feel, should have probably been indicted. And the reason is because I do feel he did use excessive force. And it needs to be looked into in a jury to decide on whether he was actually guilty or not of the person's death. The grand jury came out and said that he shouldn't be indicted. And that stirred up riots or protests there. And I'm emphasizing protests because New York did something that I like. Now, I'm originally from New York. I do criticize New York a lot because of their government. I'm totally against the way the government works in New York. Extremely high taxes. It's very hard to get ahead in New York because I feel that New York keeps the average person broke. I'm from Catskill Mountains. Beautiful area. I love the Catskill Mountains. I love the homes up there, the Four Seasons up there. In the fall, it's so beautiful with all the different colored trees. But I left New York because of the government. It's very they're liberals up there. You know, and the average person up there, I feel, is obviously liberal because they keep on voting for the same exact people to run their state. But I will say, I have always said something about New York. The people in New York are good people, despite the bad reputation they get, mainly because they're always in a hurry, so they seem to be unfriendly. But New Yorkers are very nice people. And I am so happy to see that they proved me correct in the Eric Gardner situation. With the exception of a few people, New Yorkers really came through in peaceful protest. They there was no riots, or very few riots. I mean, few people were arrested, mostly because of traffic jams, which I will talk a little bit about that. But overall, the people in New York handled this great, and in New York, I agree with you know them being upset, but they did not destroy their neighbor's property. I loved it, and it really shows a lot about New Yorkers in general, and I applaud their peaceful protests. Um, it's really amazing that people who to the United States appears to be very rude and selfish people came out and showed love for their neighbor while demonstrating their feelings towards what happened with the police officer and the grand jury decision. Um, and it really makes me feel uh, proud to say that was born and raised in New York. That is the way it should be done, people. That is the way it should be done. Now, there is one criticism I have, and that is the traffic tie-ups, the protests that happened in the streets of New York that caused traffic jams. This here is where I say, New Yorkers, you should not do that. If there's an emergency, uh, you're going to cause a problem. Somebody could die in a traffic jam. New York has enough of them already. You don't need to contribute to it. Um, if somebody needs to get to the hospital real quick or anything like that, you could be the result of someone dying. And what kind of what are you demonstrating in that? You know, that person had nothing to do with Eric Gardner, yet you decided they should die. Think about that. The other problem is, again, income. So people need to get to work. Okay, uh, hurting people financially does not prove your point. Does not in any way um, isn't justifiable. You know that uh, this average person who had nothing to do with Eric Gardner should be punished. You know, because of the grand jury's decision not to indict a police officer. So, I mean, think about these things, people. If you want to protest uh, something that you feel government is doing or something like that, aim the protest towards uh, the people that you are protesting, and do it in a peaceful way without hurting people. Okay. Remember, you want to show that you're loving and that they're hateful. Don't make it look like you're hateful and they're hateful, or you're just as hateful as they. You know, that's hypocrisy, really. like I said, I'm all for protests. You know, if you feel something is not right and you want to protest the person or the organization or I'm right with you with government. Um, Make sure you do it in the right way. Do it in a loving way. Remember, love endures all, and the only way you can win against hate is by showing love. I'll be back after these announcements.
Hello, I'm Ashley, a student at Hillsdale College. Here is Dr. Larry Arnn on why the Constitution limits government.
James Madison writes in Federalist 51 that men are not angels. Their passions and self-interest often get the better of their reason and sense of justice. So we need government in order to protect our rights against those who would take them away. But for the same reason, Madison writes, government must be limited because people in government have passions and interests too. Many Americans today forget this, supposing that we can do away with constitutional limits on government, supposing that the unelected bureaucrats being put in charge of our health care, for example, will rule as if they are angels. If Madison was correct about human nature, this is foolish and dangerous.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.org.
When I was younger, I loved running home from school and turning on the TV to watch the Lone Ranger round up the bad guys. At the end of every show, as the Lone Ranger and Tonto were riding off into the sunset, one of the townsfolk would ask, "Who was that masked man anyway?" Throughout the years, people have asked that same question about Jesus. Many continue searching for the historical Jesus, even while distrusting the only historical sources we have, the biblical witness. I'd rather take Christ at his word and the word of those whom he personally entrusted to be his spokesman and the accounts of eyewitnesses reported by them. Let's take a look at just a few of the many ways Jesus indicated just who he was. Here is what John recorded. "I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live, even though they die." And later, Jesus stated, "I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." From the very beginning, it's clear that Jesus knew who he was. When Mary and Joseph found him in the temple, he told him he was in his Father's house, indicating awareness of his divine sonship. And later, when John baptized him in the river, the heavens opened up and the voice of God was heard saying, "This is my Son whom I love. With him I am well pleased." Of course, there is much, much more that Jesus said and did to fill out and confirm his unique mission and identity. The Jesus of the biblical witness, by all reliable accounts, is truly the Son of God, the one and only Messiah who came to this world through the miracle of the Incarnation. He came to bring us back into communion with our Heavenly Father, and we can trust in him to faithfully continue that work of reconciliation in us, through us, and in the world. I'm Joseph Tkach, speaking of life.
Welcome back. This is the Oklahoma Tomcat coming to you from Bearden, Oklahoma. I want to talk about helping out the poor, the homeless. We are into the Christmas season, and even though it should be happening all year round, this is the time where you do have more people that think about the homeless and the poor, but I want to talk to you about panhandlers in particular. Most of us that drive into cities and places like that, more metropolitan areas, have come across panhandlers. These are the people that will be on the side of the road with a sign or something like that, saying, please help, I'm homeless, I'm a vet, I'm a, any number of things. Also, truck drivers will see them in truck stops. They generally come up to your truck and they'll knock and they'll ask if you have some money that you can spare. A lot of them come up with these stories, you know, uh, they're stranded or something like that. And while most of us want to help them out, we also are aware that the stories that they tell us, could very well be false. In fact, a number of them have gotten caught um, telling lies. They're really not poor. They're really not, well. They're poor, but they're not homeless. Many of them don't want to work. They shoot. I remember a story they did in Oklahoma City. One news station actually followed some of them, and they actually had cars and went to a house. They actually lived at a house. But there are actual poor people on the streets. And the question is, how do you help these people out without supporting their bad lifestyles? Because even though they could be poor and homeless, there are a lot of them that will take that money and buy alcohol, cigarettes, and things like that that are not helping them. I mean, they're legitimately poor and homeless, but they are not using that money to actually help them eat and get out of their situation. And while you can, you can't force them to get out, to improve their life. There's no way you can do. You can try to help them and all that stuff, and helping them get out of their lifestyle, but you can't force them. And a lot of them are there because of a series of decisions they have made, which is actually the majority of us that go through trials is because of choices we have made, poor choices. But that still doesn't stop us from wanting to help them. And if you are a Christian, we are called to help out the poor, no matter how they got where they are or why they're where they are. The only thing is we are not to be stumbling blocks. We are not to help them to continue with their bad decisions and supporting bad lifestyles. So how do you do that? I mean, you don't know these people. You give them cash, you don't know where that cash is going. Now, something that my wife and I have done in the past is if we were in a situation where we were either near a restaurant, a store, or something like that, we would buy them food and give it to them. For instance, there's been times we've given them, we're near a fast food restaurant, for instance, and bought them, a meal from there. There's been times when I was truck driving where I'd give a poor person, my wife would home can food, and I'd give them that. And there's been times where I've actually welcomed them into the restaurant I was about to go in and eat at. Few have taken me up on my offer. But those few that have done that, really makes me feel good that I was able to help them at least eat. That's something that we have to have is food. So, it's good when you know that they are actually hungry and needing food, and you're able to help them. It's also good when they turn you down, and it's sad, but it's good in the fact that you didn't hand them cash. Because guess what? If they turn you down from actually getting food, which is something you need, guess where that cash would have gone? Which actually justifies, my theory, and do not hand these people cash. There was something I heard on the radio, though, on a Christian radio station. That question was posed to um, one of these Christian talk shows, uh, where the caller will call in and ask a question, ask for a suggestion on certain situations. And one caller called in and asked about what should we do when we come across a panhandler. You know, now I know a lot of people who say don't mess with them, don't give them anything. But part of me is like, I understand where they're coming from, because like what I've said, chances are if you give them money, that money is going to be used for for supporting a bad habit, and we are then being stumbling blocks to that person. We're not helping them, we're helping them continue on their lifestyle. Um, and then you also have, one time I was at a truck stop and there was actually some young people that was panhandling. This girl and boy, they looked like they may have been teenagers panhandling. I can only imagine, and I did offer them, I was like, well, I don't have cash on me, but I'll go, which I generally don't carry cash. I usually only carry a debit card. Um, if you lose cash, as a truck driver, I did that. If you lose cash, then it's gone. There's no way of recovering. If you lose your debit card, you can at least call the bank. So I always did that. But I told them, but I'm about to go in here and get something to eat. You two are more than welcome to join me. And they turned me down. I can only imagine what that money was going to be used for on them. They did not look homeless. Looked like they were out trying to get some money to, maybe do some other things. Anyway, back on track. I heard this, this question being posed, and I was curious as to what the host was going to suggest. And the host came up with a very good idea. Do you all know the Christmas box, shoe box thing that goes around every year? You get a shoe box, you stuff it with stuff, and then you wrap it up and you ship it off to this organization, which gives it to other people. If I'm not mistaken, that shoebox actually goes overseas, which, yeah, helping out people overseas is great. But I kind of like, helping out Americans that are poor. I try to keep it as local as possible. If I can help my local community, that's great. The state, okay. United States, all right, But, I like to try to keep it as local as possible. Well, here's one way you can do it. And that is get a shoe box or whatever. Put stuff in it, for a homeless person. Something to stay warm, like gloves or something. Make sure any type of food you put in there is not going to go bad. If you do put a canned food in there, which, is a good idea because canned food can be eaten without being heated. It's already been pre-cooked through the canning process. But make sure it can pop open the lid without using a can opener. But, put stuff in there that a homeless person can use and give it to them. Now, actually, the host suggested something else, which is to get the gift cards from a local store in that area where the panhandler can walk to, and give it to them, which is a great idea for all year round. I'm sorry, I'm getting this a little backwards. The host suggested that, which is a great idea because those gift cards, now make sure you read them, but every gift card I've seen cannot be used for alcohol or tobacco. Okay? Get it from a grocery store, and that will ensure that they're going to buy food, and not items from like a Walmart where they could buy an item to be sold. But get them that. you know, and you can keep that in your car. Come across Panhandler, go ahead and hand it to them. Now, something my wife came across was these boxes to be given out to the homeless. And this here is actually a gift idea for the homeless during the holidays. That is, you get a shoebox, stuff it with the stuff that a homeless person can use, and then hand it off to them. And what is great with this is you don't have to spend a whole lot of money either. I mean, you just only buying stuff that can be fit into a shoebox. And you can go to Dollar Tree and buy stuff from there real cheap that can fit into that shoebox. You'll pay, about $10-15, and then when you can't, you can either go to a homeless shelter and give it to them. If you have a homeless shelter in the area, that's actually the best way to help out a homeless person, because those guys are more likely to be actually homeless. Still, you don't want to give them cash, because remember, even a homeless person will buy alcohol or tobacco. Okay? But get them food. If you don't have a homeless shelter in your area, then you can go do these panhandlers, But just some great ideas to help out the poor, especially during the holiday season. And even if you don't celebrate the holidays, I have friends who don't. This is a cold time of year. These people are out in the streets. Yes, a lot of them are out on the streets due to their own mistakes. But keep in mind, we all have made mistakes. Majority of us are living paycheck to paycheck. We're only one disaster away from being homeless. And people can turn their lives around. You may be that vehicle that God is using to help out someone to change their life around. Hey, doesn't hurt to get one of them pocket Bibles and put it in that box too. Y'all take care. God bless.